We created Blockbrief because currently it's extremely difficult for real estate buyers to get access to the right information about what they can do with a piece of land. Blockbrief is addressing this problem by providing the information that empowers real estate investors to make an informed real estate decision. We are really excited to have created a site which is redefining the development site search process.
Hello everyone, it's Matthew Player here from Blockbrief. Today we're going to focus on how you can utilize Blockbrief to uncover and mine for development sites that are ready for you to invest in. One of the most common questions we have is, how do I find or get a property for a development that has development potential, either through a rezoning or other development uplift, without it already being in the hands of a realtor where the price is going to be much higher, and in fact you're really paying for the development potential already is already priced into the sale of a property where a real estate agent is involved. So what I'm going to do is show you how to get ahead of the other developers, the big names in the market, and also how to get ahead of the local realtors who will be coming across these sites and then putting them up for sale with a premium added. So let's get started. So the first thing you want to do when you come into Blockbrief is when you're looking for development sites and opportunities, is you want to come straight to zoning changes. Now, as a member of Blockbrief, you're already going to get all these zoning changes into your inbox. So keep an eye out for them in your inbox. But once again, also make sure that you've added info@blockbrief.com to your contacts list. So we've got those little housekeeping things out of the way. So the first thing when you come into zoning changes is this is the most recent to oldest changes and proposed zoning changes around the country that have been captured into our system and logged in and made available. And as you can see, we've got the date, the council, the type of zoning change, what the change is going to be to the market, and then a gauge or a rating system on how much attention you should be taking for this particular zoning change. Opportunity to capitalize is clearly the highest rating, and what you should be looking for when you're looking for sites to develop. We then also have yield in terms of dwelling and yield in terms of job. What our research team does is they do go above and beyond to try and ascertain how many dwellings are going to be created as a result of a rezoning. Unfortunately, sometimes the local council, the state government, isn't very detailed and they just use terms where it's a plural of how many of the housing. They don't give you any exact figures, and it's quite difficult. So if you see 2-2, it doesn't literally mean that there's 2 dwellings and 2 jobs being created. It just means that we have no extra information where we can actually gauge how many. So 2-2 is a good sign, and that's where you're going to find developments. But then when we have captured it, you can see that for this particular one, we've identified that there's going to be at least 390 dwellings going to be created as a result of this rezoning. So what I want to do is we're going to actually try and go for those large ones and those ones where it says 2-2. So I'm going to look for one in particular where it's a good example that you guys can take a look at. Let me just narrow it down even further. So here is a zoning change in the local government area of Kogarah, and by clicking on the pop-up, I can find out that this amendment seeks to implement the recommendations of the Kogarah 2031 housing strategy and the Kogarah employment lands and economic development strategy. So what council is basically doing is taking all these strategic documents that basically catering for all the housing growth and employment land growth and commercial growth in the local government area for the next 15 to 20 years. And it's involving a lot of increasing zonings to high density residential. So this is exactly what we're looking for. So the next step on how you can mine for sites is this is the first big indicator that you guys have. There's something going on in Kogarah, and there's a lot of properties that are, clearly to make available 7,000 dwellings and 2,000 jobs, they're going to have to be rezoning a lot of properties that are currently not available for that type of development. So if I click this link here, it's going to take me straight to the source documentation that we utilize to capture and create the data so that you guys can quickly ascertain that data. And I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to look for some certain documentation. A lot of the times they may actually give you a list of the properties that are being rezoned. They may actually give you mapping of the properties that are going to be rezoned. I'm going to click on a particular report because I've gone ahead of time and identify which sites are involved. This happens all over the country. I'm just using an example from New South Wales. This happens in Queensland, very much so in Queensland. They're more likely to do strategic rezonings rather than spot rezonings. Now, just to explain the difference, spot rezoning typically may involve only one property or a small amount of properties, and it's also done outside of any strategic planning, whereas a strategic rezoning is where they've actually gone ahead and they've done strategic planning documents and then let them inform a rezoning plan. And this is what's happening in Kogarah. The difference is that often in a spot rezoning, the developer or the owner is very much aware of what's going on. The market is factoring in the increase in value. So you're less likely, we have lots of users that do like to look for those specific types of rezonings, but for you where you're trying to identify where there's properties where you can option them up or buy them up and earn a capital growth as a result of it, you're going to go for those particular properties where there's lots of rezoning happening. It's part of a strategic plan, and the realtors are not across every single property that's potentially involved, whereas if it's just a spot rezoning, it's pretty easy for the owner or the developer are much more involved and the value is already being factored into the price of the property. So I've got my document downloaded, and I would look for tables or maps where it identifies these particular properties that are involved in this rezoning. Now, as I pointed out, if it is a spot rezoning, in the location information, we'll actually have the exact street address. But because this rezoning involves, over 100 properties, we're not able to put a specific address in because it's hundreds of properties across the LGA. But you can go to the source documentation, and I can find in this particular table 12, proposed rezonings as a result of the Kogarah housing strategy. So I'm going to go to table 12, scroll all the way down there. And here I am. I have, for example, all the properties from 79 and 97 Noble Street, Allawah, are being rezoned from R2 low density residential to R3 medium density residential. Their maximum building height is going to be increased from 9 meters to 15 meters. And then their floor space ratio, which is often created acronym, just FSR. It just simply means the amount of building you can put on a property in relation to the size of the property. And what they're saying here is Before it was 0.55 to 1, and now they're increasing that to 1.5 to 1. So for every 1 square meter, you can build 1.5 square meters of building. So if I scroll down, you can see there's lots and lots of properties involved in this rezoning for you guys to go out there and prospect and option up, earn capital growth simply by either purchasing the property and then waiting for another developer to come along and rezone the property, or the other thing you can do is purchase the property, get the rezoning has been achieved, and then put in a DA for a development and sell it with a DA attached to it. Or you can go all the way through to benefiting from the rezoning, lodging a DA for a development, constructing the development, and then the opportunities are endless there, whether you sell the finished product or whether you want to release out the finished product and hold the building. It all starts here at the rezoning level, where you can get ahead of a realtor or other developers by staying in the know with Blockbrief zoning alerts and getting on top of it and going straight to the properties and knocking on the doors or ringing up the owner and getting control of that property so that you can benefit from the capital growth that's being created simply by the stroke and the coloring in of a pen on a map. That's what we're trying to get across to you guys, is by staying on top of this data and acting fast, you can get these properties that are benefiting from rezonings and be the one that's earning the capital growth as a result of these rezoning changes. As I said, it all starts with getting a Blockbrief membership, making sure that you're keeping track of the Blockbrief emails where we're notifying you of these rezonings, and logging in as often as you can to check the most recent rezonings and see whether they match areas or markets that you're looking at investing in. Or maybe this may trigger you to go and look at a particular market that you haven't thought of before because there's some major development going on in there. So that's Blockbrief zoning changes, and that's how you mine to find properties that you're going to get fantastic capital growth because of a planning decision that's being made, and you're the one on top of it. And if you can, and what we're doing is we're putting proposed changes and adopted changes. So you've got a lot of time ahead of the rest of the market if you stay on top of this stuff, and you've got time to access these properties quickly so that you can get control of the properties before the rest of the market is in the know about the increase in market value that's going to be earned as a result of the rezoning.